Hi everyone, welcome to this latest report on the astrology of Saturn's imminent retrograde back into the sign of Pisces. I'm recording this on the 31st of August, the end of a month, and Saturn will be retrograding back into Pisces tomorrow, 1st of September, the start of a new month. So this happening is also highlighting the theme that I've been talking about for a while in the astrology of endings and beginnings. Closing out cycles and starting new ones. So we've got Saturn, who's been in retrograde since mid-July. Of course, that started in Aries. And we're at the point now, that cusp point between Aries and Pisces, where he is about to move back into the sign of Pisces. And he is going to be going over old ground. He is going to be asking us through the energy if we are in alignment with our soul's truth. Are we in alignment with our spiritual integrity? And what cycles have we been closing out that have not been in alignment? Because, of course, Saturn ingressed into Pisces, 7th of March 2023. That date is etched in my memory. I am a Pisces, for those of you that don't know. And that came with a full moon in Virgo eclipse, by the way, happening just before he ingressed into Pisces, heralding this chapter of illumination in terms of what's coming up from the soul, not what we're thinking with the mind, what's coming up from the soul for our attention in terms of our values, in terms of our integrity, and what is and what isn't in alignment with that for our highest good. And Saturn delivering those lessons in the way that Saturn does, no emotion. Let's just get it done. You got to learn one way or the other. Might be harsh, but it's for your own good. Great teacher, but not really the energy that Pisces vibes with, because Pisces is more about the flow. But Pisces needs structure sometimes. So it's a great opportunity. Okay, we've got to look at the positive of all of this, and this is all for our highest good. So he was in Pisces for a time, and he was teaching us about our soul's truth and, you know, the boundaries that we need to put in place around our spiritual integrity and so on. Of course, he ingressed into Aries, bit of respite from the Piscean energy, and has been really sort of getting us in alignment with that understanding of what we are trying to pursue. Aries rules the first house. So what do we want? So it's like somebody sitting down in front of you and saying, what do you actually want? And you sitting there in response to saying, I don't actually know what I want because I've been doing things for other people. Or, yeah, I do know what I want, but I can't do it for X, Y, and Z reasons. So kind of like a spotlight, you know, although it's not an illumination like a full moon or an eclipse would be, but a bit of a spotlight, a bit of a Saturn spotlight on what we want to achieve, because Saturn is all about achieving. What do we actually want to achieve for our life? And understanding it from a sovereign perspective, that warrior spirit within, because Aries, first house, sovereignty, okay? Aries energy is all about knowing what you want and taking action to get it. Of course, there's the bigger picture with astrology. We can't just say this planet is doing this and it means X, Y, Z. That helps us understand it. But the bigger picture is the other stuff going on, because there's aspects from planet to planet, asteroids, we've got the luminaries involved, the sun and the moon, and so on. So it's a bigger picture. But essentially, Saturn has been trying to get us to understand what has been within, you know, when he was in Pisces, what has been within soul's truth. Are you acting in accordance with your soul's truth? And if not, why not? And what have you got to close out? Then in Aries, what do you want to achieve for your life? And what are you going to do about it? Understanding that. So retrogrades, he's been retrograde in Aries since mid-July, okay? And retrogrades generally are a period of introspection. So it's where the energy slows down, but that's for a reason. It's a pause moment. It's to understand what we got to reflect on here. So we've been reflecting since mid-July on all of that, you know, the what do we want to achieve and what do we need to do about it, etc., etc. And now at this cusp point, knowing that he's going over that ground of an ending and a beginning, close out of a cycle, beginning of a new cycle, because we've got 12th house, first house energy, and Pisces Aries is the absolute end of a cycle and the beginning of a brand new one. We have that with every zodiac season, but Pisces back into Aries is pivotal because it's Pisces is the end of the astrological year, if you like. So there's big emphasis around this, and he's going back over that cusp point, and then he'll be in Pisces, waking us up again to our soul's truth and asking us, okay, do we still need to detach from certain cycles not in alignment with our soul's values? What are we doing? What are we actually doing about this? You know, getting us properly in alignment with that. Neptune side by side, they've been working as a bit of a task team. Of course, Neptune is currently retrograde in Aries, has remained close to Saturn, will also be retrograding back into Pisces and is the modern day ruler of Pisces. So there is a more comfortable energy to that. And Neptune has certainly been asking us to get more in touch with our intuition. So to be guided by our intuition. And another important word here that I've been harping on about quite a while is discernment. So understanding and discerning on a soul level. Again, not up here. Yes, we do need to use the mind to process certain things. We do need logic. We do. But this needs to be soul-led. So this is coming from a place of discernment, intuition, and what our inner compass is saying, okay, where we're being guided. And it's even more prevalent because of the North Node being in Pisces. So North Node is where we're heading. South Node is where we've come from, Virgo. So we are moving into that ethereal path of connecting with our intuition, being guided by our intuition. So everything else, do you see the link here? Everything else going on with what Saturn is doing and Neptune, as well as the other planets and asteroids, but they are, of course, getting us to connect more with our soul, to put boundaries in place where we need to have rules for our life where we need to, and to act from a place of spiritual integrity. That is so important, especially at this time. Okay. Went off on a bit of a tangent there, but there we go. That's what I do. I am a Pisces, and sometimes you just need to flow with it. So there we are. This is happening a week before the full moon eclipse in Pisces. So Saturn will be back in Pisces, meeting up with the North Node, okay, who's also in Pisces, obviously, as I've just said. And then we're going to get the full moon with the eclipse in Pisces on the 7th or 8th of September, depending on where you are in the world. For us in the UK, it's the 7th. Big illumination, big activation, okay, and that's happening at the midway point of this pocket portal I've been talking about between the two new moons in Virgo. And if you've not seen that astrology report on those two new moons and that full moon in the middle, we've had the first new moon in Virgo, and that was at 0 degrees, the start of a cycle. Then we've got the full moon with the eclipse halfway. And then we've got the second new moon in Virgo with an eclipse at 29 degrees, the final anaretic degree a planet or planetary body can be in this case a luminary, before it moves to a new sign. That's a cycle within a cycle. So do you see the theme here? Endings, beginnings, cycles, closeout, illumination, activation, awakenings, lifting of the veil, lessons being learned, spiritual integrity, discernment, coming from a place of your soul's truth and alignment with those values, detaching from anything that is not in alignment with that. Very important. So, yeah, we've got Saturn retrograde back into Pisces 1st of September. 6th of September, Uranus stations retrograde in Gemini. And the day after that for us in the UK is the full moon eclipse. Okay, again, the energy keeps building momentum. With Uranus stationing retrograde in Gemini, so close to the full moon eclipse in Pisces, and knowing that we've got Saturn back in Pisces as well, expect sudden, unexpected things to happen. Okay, because this is kind of like major wake-ups. Got the illumination of a full moon with the eclipse energy, which is like a double whammy activation type energy as well as part of that. So big energy. Okay, big energy, and could be unexpected things that just come from nowhere. Okay, because Pisces is that subconscious realm. It's the hidden depth of the ethereal. So it could just come from nowhere. Sudden change from nowhere. Okay, so bear that in mind. Right, let's just go into the charts. Okay, I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. I do try and just go with the flow because I often get channeled insights as I'm doing these. So I try not to be too rigid with them, to allow the flow. But I also appreciate that if the video is too long, it might not get viewed by many people because of algorithms and so on. So let's try and keep it as brief as possible. So here is the moment, freeze frame of the cosmos, when Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces, 1st of September. So for the UK, 9:07 a.m. British summertime. Okay. And you can see I've marked certain things up on the chart here. So you can see there, Saturn, 29 degrees, 59 minutes. So he would have gone from 0 degrees Aries back into Pisces, still close to Neptune, joins the North Node. And by the way, don't take any notice of the houses in this chart. When I put it next to the UK's chart, that gives you context, which would be the same if I was doing a natal chart horoscope for you, for example. Now here, Saturn is forming a sextile to Uranus in Gemini, which is a positive aspect in astrology, as well as a trine that is to Vesta, okay, in Scorpio. But there is a sesqui square to Poseidon and Lilith in Scorpio. They are both conjunct, as you can see, and Lilith is in retrograde. So those are all asteroids, and these four have remained a bit of a tight ship, to be honest with you, in a lot of the astrology reports I've done recently. So there's something angelic about this. I felt this before, something angelic, absolutely. But these are asteroids, okay? And Vesta, if we're looking at Vesta because of the trine to Saturn retrograde in Pisces, Vesta is all about that sacred flame energy and reminds us of that inspiration that really gets us passionate about doing something. So it could be creative inspiration, it could be a creative muse that really sparks your inspiration and gets you going on artistic endeavors, or something that you want to pursue. It is about creation energy as well, because Vesta is a feminine asteroid, and I attribute Vesta to goddess Bridget energy, which is home and hearth, but absolutely about creation. So again, with this going over old ground in Pisces and Saturn asking us if we're in alignment with our spiritual integrity, well, from a spiritual integrity perspective, are we pursuing that which lights us up? Are we pursuing what sparks that flame of passion within us to really have that lust for life and do what we want to do? Are we pursuing that? Juno is close by, so there is a commitment energy here. Are we committed to pursuing what we want? And this is deep because of the Scorpio energy, and there's a transformative aspect here. So acknowledging, have we got to really transform something here in how we commit to things, because we need to commit more to the things that light us up rather than the things that don't. And with Lilith there, it's kind of like the shadow aspects come up. So fears, anxieties, and doubts that could come up, as well as trying to acknowledge what we really, really desire to do, but that which we might have suppressed. Oh, I can't possibly do that because people are going to think I'm stupid. Nonsense. Okay. So this is just to kind of give you know, a bit of an insight into that sort of energy. And Vesta with Juno, I mean, I have to say it, it might resonate for some people, but sacred flame energy next to a commitment asteroid, who I also attribute to soulmates and soul contracts, okay, because it's commitment, love and commitment energy. So that to me can symbolize soul contracts. So this could be about sacred flame connections, okay, so soul connections that are really inspired by the sacred flame energy, that are deep, that go deep, they're very transformative, and how they impact on what we are trying to learn about our spiritual integrity in that way. The challenge with the Sesky square is, of course, what Poseidon is churning up from the depths of the ocean, and if we are suppressing what we truly wanted to do, whilst acknowledging shadow aspects that we need to pay attention to as well. So are we committed to pursuing what we want to? Is this about a soul contract, a soul connection with somebody that we are you know, suppressing because we can't go deep enough to face the depth of that connection? Again, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Okay, so we've got that. But the sextile to Uranus in Gemini, and by the way, these aspects, the sextile particularly and the Sesky square, were in place when Saturn started his retrograde in Aries. So they've continued, okay, to this point. But the sextile, okay, yes, this is going to bring about change. And this is about change that relates to the new innovative way that we are trying to navigate our reality, the new that we're trying to create. But there's always this bit of a caveat with the Gemini energy of needing to perhaps look at things from a different perspective. So change is possible, but we might need to pivot, look at things from a different angle, okay, in order to address what's in alignment with our spiritual truth, our soul's integrity that Saturn is now going to be covering as he goes over old ground. There's a Yod, which is a finger of God, and it's made up of a sextile and two quincunxes. I've drawn it in white to just highlight that it's a Yod, okay? The sextiles at the base are going between, in fact, the midheaven of the chart as an astrological event and the sun in Virgo. We're in Virgo season, of course. And the Yod is pointing towards Pallas, another asteroid, divine feminine. And this is like a warrior asteroid because she's attributed to Pallas Athena, okay? And almost like I view her as supporting energy to Mars. Mars is currently in Libra, okay? So there's air energy between the two. So yeah, that's quite good. But Pallas, she fights for what she wants, but she knows the need to strategize and to plan. So there's focus here on strategy. Now, interestingly, at the base, because we've got the sun in Virgo, from a soul essence perspective, there's grounding energy here, but we're wanting to clean things up. Virgo likes to clean things up, get things in order, and Virgo likes to schedule and plan. So, and that's because the Virgo energy, sorry, I had a low battery alert then. That is because the Virgo energy likes things in order and likes to feel in control of things. So by planning it out, you can feel in control of it, okay, because you know what you're doing. Yes, we might have to pivot the plan. We might have to make tweaks, but if the plan is there, we can feel comfortable and we've got things in order, or we're trying to get things in order. That's the intention. So we've got that supporting energy at the base. And of course, with the midheaven, almost like, you know, how people perceive us with the Cancerian energy would need to be, you know, coming from a place of unconditional love, certainly self-love and nurturing. And this is why we're doing this. You know, we're trying to change our life and we're trying to clean things up. So from a soul essence perspective, we want to get things in order, but we know we need to strategize. We know we need to plan things out. And Pallas in Aquarius alongside Pluto there, it is about the transformative new reality that we're heading towards. So we need to put plans in place for that, essentially. Okay, and this is going on throughout, you know, I say throughout, I just mean in terms of this chart. Saturn moving back into Pisces, activating that. Okay, it's a message throughout this next coming period. If I can get my words out, I think you know what I'm trying to say. It sets a theme for the period of when Saturn is going to be retrograding through Pisces, basically. Okay, that we do still need to strategize and plan. Of course, we've got to go with the flow, but we need to make sure that we're coming from a place of spiritual integrity. So we can plan and strategize. Is it in alignment with our spiritual integrity? Or are we just planning and strategizing for something that's not connected to our soul's truth at all? Okay, looking at it like that. All right. So if I just show you here, against the UK's chart, okay, again, it always looks a bit messy in the middle because there's a smaller space to work with. But this is the chart I've just shown you against the UK's natal chart. So the UK's natal chart is in the middle and the outer wheel is what I've just shown you. So Saturn, his retrograde, even when he started in Aries, was in the 9th house for the UK. 9th house here, 9th house of learning and discovery, okay, and teaching, because it can be motivational energy, and Saturn is a teacher. So if we align with the positive of it being a motivational period for us to get things in alignment with our soul's truth, then fabulous. When Saturn stations direct in Pisces at the end of November, this will also be in the 9th house. Okay, so we're still discovering a lot about what this period, what Saturn's period has been teaching us, okay, as a UK collective. The trine to Vesta and Juno, if you like, because Juno's close by, and I've just been talking about Juno as well, is going to the 5th house. So certainly from the heart space, it could be related to soul contracts and connections that spark that inspiration within us. Who are we inspired by? Okay, that could be a connection that inspires us to really take action on what we want to do in our life. And if it's coming from the heart space and it's fueled by joy, that desire to experience joy in our life, 5th house, brilliant. Okay, and we're learning that, we're discovering that through this process. The sextile to Uranus, well, connections with others is definitely a key part of the change that's happening. So as we're aligning with our soul's truth and our spiritual integrity, connections with others are going to perhaps change. And it could be that, you know, we have connections that will fizzle out because, you know, they've served their purpose. There's purpose to everything. But they've kind of served their purpose because now it's the new chapter. And only so many people can come with you on the next chapter, you know, but they were very much a purposeful connection at the time. It could be that certain connections need to transform in some way. Again, looking at Gemini, the different perspectives and looking at things from a different side of things, or perhaps the connection with others or another has changed slightly because of values changing. But yeah, it can work. It might just be symbolizing about new connections coming in during this time because of Uranus being in the 11th house and the change, the sudden change that can be associated with Uranus. There is a newness to Uranus because Uranus rules Aquarius. So new connections could be coming in that are going to change the course of your path. But remember, the lesson from Saturn is that in alignment with your soul's truth and your soul's values? Okay. The yard is pointing towards the 7th house of relationships with people, places, things. So that might be where strategy is needed. Okay. Certainly if you're making plans for the future and you're needing to make changes when it comes to your relationship with the environment that you're in, people that you're around, jobs that you do, whatever it might be. And then we've got the sun in the 3rd house, so cleaning things up from an expression perspective. So yeah, do we need to actually adjust that, clean it up? Do we need to speak up more for ourselves in a grounded way, but in a more kind of you know, organized way. That's the word, organized, because Virgo is very organized energy. Okay. And showing up with that unconditional love, and other people maybe seeing us as that. Certainly our inner authority can come up with that, but it's in some ways hidden as well. Okay, so it's understanding the qualities that are within, that are coming from a place of unconditional love and that self-nurturing, and those are also part of your values that Saturn is trying to get you in alignment with, taking more care of yourself. It's kind of hidden, it's on that subconscious level, but that's fueling the change that you're trying to make. And how organized you need to get for the next chapter. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the final chart. And this is just to show you a freeze frame of the cosmos at the time that Saturn stations direct in Pisces, which is at the end of November. So 27th or 28th, depending on where you are in the world. For us in the UK, 3:52 a.m. GMT, because we will be on GMT then. We'll be in the winter. And that's the 28th for us. Okay. So for America, for example, it'll be the 27th. So you can see a nice big green triangle there, and that is a grand trine. So I'll come on to that in a bit, but you can see Saturn there, again, close to Neptune, and Neptune will have recently moved into Pisces as part of his retrograde. So they're 4 degrees away from each other, but they're still close. And, you know, obviously at this point, Saturn is stationed in direct. So Saturn is then going to move forward. So they're going to form an exact conjunction in Pisces at some point. Okay. So they're going to get closer again. So it's really, I don't know, building up the tension with that task team type energy. That's what I'm feeling from it. But you can see, you know, we've got the North Node there, and the moon will be in Pisces at that point as well. So sensitivities could be heightened around that time. We will be in Sag season. Okay, so within our emotional home and our soul essence, we've got mutable energy. So there is a flow, there just might be some sensitivities, okay? And a further desire of learning, perhaps from Saturn's retrograde. Right, okay, let's take stock of this now. What has that taught me? He's still going to then be in Pisces moving forward until next February. So the momentum will build because, of course, when a planet then stations direct and moves forward, there is more movement to the energy. So there's more flow. Okay, but at that point, let's take stock. What has that period of introspection taught us? Are we any further forward in terms of alignment with our soul's values and our spiritual integrity? Hopefully the answer to that is yes. Okay. Now, I've also marked up what's going on with Mars, because Mars will be in an exact conjunction with Lilith in Sag. Okay, and I'll come on to that. In fact, I'll cover that first. Let's get that out of the way because there's some challenging energy. Okay, we've got a couple of squares, and those squares are going to the South Node and the North Node. We've got a semi-square, which was meant to be in a different color, like a darker orange. Okay, so the squares are meant to be in red, and I don't know how they're going to come across on the screen. And the semi-square, I've tried to mark that up as a dark orange, but I appreciate it might look similar to the other one, but that's a semi-square, and that's going to Pluto in Aquarius. And then we've got the sesqui square that's going up to midheaven, and Pars Fortuna is up there as well, okay, with Jupiter. So Mars and Lilith close by, Lilith in retrograde. So Mars determined, wanting to take action, and perhaps the retrograde period, that introspection has really helped us gain that insight in terms of what we do need to take action on. Mars wants to just get on with it and go. And, you know, that's why we often need to nurture the masculine energy, because we've got that drive to do things. We need to understand, is that the right thing to do? Now, Lilith is feminine energy, but is more the shadow feminine energy. So are we wanting to take action based on or coming from a place of fears, doubts, anxieties, shadow wounds. So any shadow wounds coming up to the surface, are we then just acting out? Are we then just being reactive, I suppose, is the best way to put it. Are we being reactive? Or are we realizing we've suppressed certain things that we truly, truly want to do? And we've learnt this with the Sag energy. Okay, we're more motivated to now pursue what we truly desire. And we've had to overcome certain aspects where we have suppressed it. And why have we suppressed it? Because we've not felt worthy of it, or other fears, anxieties, doubts that come up. So we've done the shadow work with that. So now we understand, okay, yeah, I do want to pursue this, and it's time. You know, I might need a bit more introspection because, of course, Lilith is retrograde there. But if Mars wants to take action, it needs to come from that place of the healed shadow aspects, if that makes any sense how I'm saying it. There is a trine that is going to Chiron. I didn't mark it up, okay, on here, but there is a trine, okay, that's going up to Chiron. So it does relate to healing, okay? And by us overcoming fears, anxieties, and doubts, as, you know, reasons why we might have suppressed what we truly, truly desire in our life, that can be very healing, because there's acknowledgement of that. It's kind of like, okay, I've had to acknowledge that, and also acknowledge, yes, I do really desire that. And kind of like removing stigmas around that. That might be a message for someone that's just come through to me. But the action that Mars wants to take needs to be driven by the healed version of that. Okay. Now, Juno is still there and close by, and is obviously close to Mars and Lilith. So again, commitment to following through on this. Okay. Almost not backtracking because of fears and wanting to suppress again, like, no, I can't do this. We've got the soul essence support with the sun in Sag as well. You've got this, you know, that kind of thing. And the commitment to it is very important. But also, when we look at what I was saying before about soul contracts as the other interpretation with Juno, there could be those soul connections that have been, you know, you've learned a lot with the Sag energy. You've discovered a lot about certain soul commitments, soul contracts, and perhaps they have played a part in the suppression of what you've truly desired. Whether the connections themselves have led you to suppress certain things, or if they have unearthed certain things that you've suppressed. And that then encourages you, motivates you, the Sag energy, to then take the action that's needed. Okay. The challenge comes in terms of feeling a bit stuck with, where am I going? What have I just been doing? Because it's North Node and South Node in the balance. And if we're looking at the soul contracts in the mix here with what I've just said about, you know, have they been suppressing what you've truly wanted to do and the action you've wanted to take, or have they unearthed it for you to then take the action as a motivational piece? It's kind of like there's a feeling of a bit of a limbo moment of taking stock of that. What have I learned from that? Okay, I've got the memo. Now I need to move forward, but with a clear direction of where you've come from and where you're going, and the transformation that you're trying to achieve. Okay, and not blocking that transformation. It could also be saying about past life soul contracts and what you've learned from those, because past life patterns can be coming up, revealing things with regards to soul connections. Okay, so it could be from something in a past life between you and somebody else that has led to a suppression of what you truly desire. Sorry, I've had another low battery warning. I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon. But that it could have led to you suppressing what you truly desire to do. And that's followed you through into this lifetime, where this needs to be eradicated once and for all, which is, you know, obviously Saturn's message of alignment with spiritual integrity, getting boundaries in place and detaching from cycles that are not serving us. Now, it could be that, you know, a past life soulmate has been very inspirational, that has led you to realize in this lifetime to kind of wake up to the reality of what you have been suppressing, because that could have been a pattern in the past life, but they've now woken you up to it so that you can understand, okay, that's why this pattern has been coming up for me. Now I know the action I need to take. Okay, so it's just that bit of limbo period whilst there's that reflection, acknowledgement, acceptance, and understanding of that in order to then move forward. I'm going to quickly mention about the Grand Trine, because Saturn and Neptune are in the mix with this, and we've got Jupiter past Fortuna, and then we've got Venus and also Mercury. Mercury will be, gasp, retrograde at this point. Okay, so yeah, there's going to be introspection from Mercury as well at this point, but a trine is very harmonious. All of these planets are working together, so we've actually got what Saturn and Neptune are doing, okay, with lifting of the veil, the connection with source energy within, our intuition, following our inner compass, learning the lessons that Saturn has been teaching us to get us in alignment with spiritual truth, how that's been influencing our communication and our expression, and finding the depth of that, you know, when it comes to the strength of speaking up and doing that from a raw, authentic place, because Mercury and Scorpio can be very raw and authentic, very real. So we need to be real with ourselves and authentic in how we are expressing ourselves. Okay, again, is it in alignment with our soul's truth or not? Speak up about it, you know, like be real, be raw, be authentic. And I mentioned about connections before. And if people don't like that, and that's the real, authentic version of you, they're not meant to be in your life. Okay, as harsh as that sounds, but this is an example of the energy. It's about pivoting and changing. We're evolving. So connections with others could be transforming in that way, or they might be closing out for whatever reason. Venus is reminding us of our values. And is it also in alignment with our authenticity from a deep perspective? Okay, are we investing in the things that make us feel good on a deep level? And also the expansion and growth that can come from that. Jupiter will be retrograde at this point as well. So it's inner growth. There is a lot of inner growth going on at this time, and one that's very nurturing and healing. And that is where the success comes in. Now, Cancer is the cardinal energy in this grand water trine. So there's a flow here to this energy between all those planets that I've mentioned. But also, you know, we've got the inner growth that is really commanding a lot from us. We are expanding. I've just mentioned about we're evolving. This is inner growth that's very profound. And the success that comes from that, the fortune, which can come in many ways, because fortune can be happiness, okay, that can come from this inner growth, is as a result of the work we've been doing to address, are we speaking up? Are we being real? Are we investing our time, energy, attention in things that bring us joy, that connect with us on a deep level? Have we been inspired by other people or situations to then not hide what we want to do? Have we been motivated to take the action in terms of what we want? And is it in alignment with our soul's truth and our spiritual integrity? Saturn's lesson, as a siren is going off. Okay. Right, let's wrap it up before my battery runs out completely. I don't know what's going on with my microphone as well. So hopefully that's all come across well. This earring wants to do weird things, but that's also making me think of cycles. Okay, so definitely cycle closeout, very important. Consistently throughout this year. You know, this year, 2025, it's a 9-year. So there is a lot of releasing here because we're getting to the end of cycles. So releasing and detachment. But as I've mentioned before, the full moon with the eclipse coming just a week after Saturn retrogrades back into Pisces, and they kind of link up with that Piscean energy. So there is this activation. Uranus will be retrograde in Gemini the day before that happens, the full moon. So it's massive change that can be unexpected and can just come from nowhere, can come from the hidden realms, can just happen. Okay, so obviously discernment has been a key word, and I would say that particularly because of Neptune's retrograde and the fact that Neptune has been working in a bit of a task team with Saturn to lift the veil. Discernment is key. Okay, so we need to acknowledge what's coming up. There's light and shadow to everything. So if we're acknowledging the shadow aspects coming up, we're understanding where they've come from and what we need to do to address them. There's acceptance of that, and there is gaining of the wisdom, and that goes into the wisdom bank, the soul. So we understand if we face a similar situation, we've got the wisdom in our soul. We might be unearthing wisdom that's already there. Again, with that later chart that I showed you, that could be activated from the commitment, Juno energy, to our path that we've understood. Okay, yeah, I've been here before. The wisdom's coming through. I know what to do. I'm trusting my intuition. Could be activated by someone else, soul contract with the Juno energy. So someone else might actually reveal something, or just their presence activates something, inspires you to take note of what you're doing and if it's in alignment with your soul's truth or not. But use your discernment as always. It's understanding what is in alignment with your soul's truth and your values and your spiritual integrity. Okay? Sending you love and blessings, and I'll see you on the next report.